Hello, back on track with Tarn House today. This is the final mix, so let's hear what we've got and then we'll have a talk about it. I don't think that little synth thing was in the last time we looked at this song. This might be the only... Oh, the strings as well, tiny little bit of strings. I tried more and they just didn't work, and one tiny little section survived. But this Omnisphere sound is quite nice. You can see that all of this is audio now. I, for the longest time, avoided turning VST instruments into WAV files, and I've come to the conclusion it is strictly better. The whole world is right, and I was wrong. Being able to see the audio is really, really important. It saves your CPU, it protects your CPU a little bit. Having said that, I'm an absolute numpty because I think in this version of the song that we're listening to now, the VSTs are still active. I haven't actually frozen them. So that's kind of egregious. But no, just being able to see the audio is fantastic, particularly with the drums. What I do is, once I've turned everything, exported everything to audio, I'll select the entire lot and go into Audio Advanced Detect Silence, and then set it to -70 dB, which is savagely quiet, essentially silent. And it finds all the bits of silence, and you can say process all selected events, strip silence away. And what you're left with is just the sections of audio where there is any content. And so it really efficiently just chops. You can see that little section there. It's got to be at least 2 seconds long for it to cut it out according to those options that I've set. And it just runs through the entire thing. I could do it on every single audio track. There's absolutely no harm, because it's so lightweight at -70 dB with a 2-second lead-in time. It can't really do any harm. So then I get to see where everything is. And actually, once I'd converted everything, exported everything to audio, it turns out there was a drum track there with nothing on it, and I just missed it. I just completely missed it. I think it was tambourines or something, I don't know what. But yeah, it came up with a completely empty audio track. I actually undid the detect silence and strip just to make sure there really was nothing there, and there wasn't, and then threw it away again. These strings that I attempted to bring in kind of sounded quite nice, but just couldn't get them to work in the context of the song, and eventually gave up. It's a real shame, because I think they do sound great, but I couldn't get them to sit well with the guitars, and every time I stripped the guitars out, it just felt wrong. It felt like they didn't want to be there. And so you can see the last little section that did survive is just this one tiny little zone over here. Just helps to thicken up. It's actually taken over the role that the piano was previously playing there, but I left the piano out and I didn't miss it. Something else that was a huge deal during the mixing process was, you can see these two guitars, B1 and B2. If I really zoom in, you can see that they're slightly offset. They were not sitting well together at all. If I just move them back, so they're now completely, it's actually the same guitar line completely repeated, and they weren't sitting well at all. Yeah, how thin that is? It is absolutely extraordinary how such minute movements, I mean, when at this zoom level, you can't even tell that they're offset at all. You have to get in there quite a way, and it just sounded better. So whenever I do this thing where I duplicate tracks and then apply different kinds of EQ to the different sides, obviously I'm affecting that audio in a way that benefits from just being moved out of the way one way or another. Because they're identical, it's not phase cancellation in the strictest sense of the term. It's more as a function of what EQ is being done to them and the effects that that's having on the waves. But it definitely behooves me to do that pretty much everywhere where I've got very similar sounds, maybe, you know, the kick main and kick add, snare top, snare bottom. But I've been making a really conscious effort in recent weeks to pay attention to this stuff. If you've got one sound source that's doing multiple jobs, you've really got to solo in to see whether or not there's anything broken with the sound, and if it is, then see how to repair it, and then immediately get back out, you know, as wide a zoom as you possibly can, so you don't lose the context of the song. Similar kind of thing with the bass. I wanted to do some processing on different sides of the bass, so this is quite a common thing. I do this more often than not. Just split the bass up into low channel and high. So this has got an absolutely brutal EQ on it. It really is savage. And then The other one is really high with some saturation off the Saturn. And together. Just helps it cut through the mix a little. And put the vocals front and centre.
Cloudless days are longer in your arms.
So they were always nice and clear anyway. The vocals are great, but I did everything I could to move everything out the way. You know, don't allow anything to be in the middle when they're in the middle, or anything that's too loud. Pull everything else down, you know, if it's needed to get them really sitting on top of the mix.
Down on the mountainside.
So I don't want them to be like absolutely all you hear, but I do want them to be the most important thing in the song. It is the best musical instrument at my disposal, so I should have it, you know, that dominant. So having a little bit of difficulty mixing the acoustic guitars. They were just feeling thin, and I don't know whether or not I should have done this, but I did. I just basically normalized all the tracks and just gave me so much more headroom to play with. I think I'd recorded them really pretty quiet. I was having issues with my audio card at the time, if I remember rightly, and just didn't seem to be able to get a particularly big signal. I think that problem is subsequently finished, but yeah, unnormalized, all of the audio tracks were a little bit too thin. And then the solo just got doubled with this new Bitron on the right channel. This is a hell of a thing. What a great sound. I think this might become the solution to my phaser problem, since I've had to semi-retire the PH1 and I've not been able to find a decent software emulation of a phaser. This thing is pretty fantastic. I was having a jam with it this morning. It just sounded so good. I was really enjoying myself. So I want to dive really heavily into that thing, and hopefully it can be my new phaser of choice. So there you go, all done. We had some dark times, Tarnhouse and me. We definitely fell out quite a few times, but I think in the end the story finished quite happily. I'm really pleased with the mix. I think the song sounds good. Find out in a year's time whether or not I'm right, but you know, for now, to my ears as they are at the moment, it sounds pretty good. Hope you enjoyed the series, and if you did, please hit the like button. Check out my Patreon details below if you want to support the channel, and I'll see you for the next one. Thanks very much.